Today, I've been asked to set the context for what we're going to talk about today. And by that, I mean I'm going to give the 50,000-foot view of what's going on in the external world, both the world in general and also in terms of the business world, that is really driving the need for these changes in meetings and driving the need for the kind of innovation that all of us in this room are trying to spark. So, essentially, what I want to talk about today is why we need to engage stakeholders and tap into collective intelligence. What's going on? Well, there's a major paradigm shift that's happening in the world right now. And it's really interesting how technology has changed, because when we were in the information age, essentially what we were doing is storing, accessing, manipulating, and transferring information. But now, with the advent of a lot more collaborative technologies, and in particular social media, it's really changing how we're using information. We're sharing more, we're integrating that, we're co-creating. And so if you don't believe me that there's this shift to a more collaborative age, I would ask you to consider what's happened in the past few days. And what's happened in Tunisia and Egypt is all about, if you look today, the front page, how many of you saw the front page of the New York Times today? Some of you out in the rest of the world may have not seen it, but on the front page of the New York Times here in New York, which is the center of the universe today, right? It says, a 2-year collaboration of dissidents was the key to the democracy movement. And as you can see from this slide, one of the key activists said that Facebook was essential to their ability to topple a 30-year regime. So we are in an age of collaboration. And that is affecting business. Because in the information age, we had a lot more traditional organizations. Organizations were more self-contained. Now we're working with all kinds of partners. We have different strategic alliances. We work with contractors. So the organization has more fluid boundaries, so to speak. It's not so self-contained anymore. And we all know that the transparency of information has skyrocketed. You can't keep a secret very well anymore, right? It's hard to keep a secret. And when before we were heavily focused on business processes that were very orderly and one thing happened after another, now we've got all this networking so that things don't happen in the same kind of linear fashion that they used to. Some parts of our organizations do, but we've got all these new ways of working together that are really changing how we get work done. And finally, CEOs are particularly interested in this. We've shifted from an age where centralized authority was more prevalent, and now it's about authenticity and shared power. And people in positions of power, whether it's running a government or running an organization, are starting to sense this and feel it. And it's really setting the tone for some big changes in the way we communicate. And that main change in tone is that we can't just tell and sell. Executives or leaders can't just get up and tell people to go do things anymore. Now we have to ask and engage. If we want to get things executed, if we want to get things done, we have to be able to engage the people that we want to do that execution in the process of figuring out how to do that together. Now, you may be saying at this point, well, what does all this have to do with meetings, Mary? Well, meetings, in my mind, are one of the most important collaboration tools that we have. We've had them around for centuries. The problem is, a lot of meetings look like they did in the 14th century when the term was coined. We've got old meetings. We've got meetings that look like the picture on the left and not as much like the picture on the right, although we're starting to see more of that. And let me anchor this in an example for you. I had a client several years ago who was interested in they had a meeting of 3,000 leaders globally come together in one face-to-face meeting. And they wanted to encourage better cross-selling in the organization. Now, they were smart enough to know that they couldn't just get up and tell people to go out and cross-sell, right? So what did they do? Well, we ended up getting people in a situation similar to this, and I worked on this project with Larry Cherry, who's in the back of the room there. Larry, if you want to raise your hand. And we got them to give us ideas about what could be done to improve cross-selling. Well, we got 4,000 ideas on how to improve cross-selling in the organization. And we parsed through those. They voted on those ideas. They came up with the top 3. Before we even left the room, 1,000 people volunteered to work on the ideas that we had identified. That's a big difference from sending out an executive speech or a bunch of flyers about how important cross-selling is. Okay? So that's what I mean by if we want to get things done and get things executed, we've got to come up with these different ways of doing it. Now, meetings like the one I've just described, and the one I did with Larry, and the one today, and one I'll talk about in a few minutes that I worked on with Lenny Lind, these kinds of meetings are going to become more prevalent. And here's why, because we've got to rethink how we are approaching meetings. We still need people from the stage, thank you. I still want to have a job as a speaker, but we've got to add in the peer-to-peer and that exchange and the feedback to the stage, your feedback to us. And the experience before was mostly face-to-face and on-site and at one point in time. Now we're adding in, like we had the pre-conference session to get your input before the session. We're doing things after the session. So we're expanding that experience and enhancing it with technology. And we're going from just plain messaging to engagement. And the next one's important, talk to action. Most meetings you go and you talk at the meeting. I want to have meetings where something gets done. And I think that's something that resonates with CEOs when we talk about it. Yeah, let's get something done at the meeting. And we've been planning meetings for years, but now we need to design them. We need to look at both the form and content as well as the logistics in order to deliver on the promise of what meetings can do. So in short, what I think we've got to all do together is to rethink, why are we holding these meetings? What are we doing the meeting for in the first place? We've got to redesign them with new methods and technologies. And as an industry, we've got to reinvent the facilities, the methods, the technologies that we have to really engage people in what happens at an event. I am saying that now we've got this age of collaboration, but that doesn't mean we have high-performance collaboration, does it? Just having more collaboration, what's the value of that? There's no value in just collaborating. We need to have high-performance collaboration. And the problem is, we all think we're good at collaborating, right? How many in here think you're not a good communicator? Okay, nobody, right? Everybody thinks they already know it. But here's the thing. It's kind of like a difference between a triathlete and a child or anybody else that is running, biking, or swimming, right? They have to use science. They have to use special diets. They have to use special equipment. They have to use, there's all sorts of things that improve their performance. And we've got more than 30 years of social science information and understanding of how to collaborate better that we're not putting to good use. And we're going to need to put that to good use when we redesign these meetings, because we need to teach people to be high-performance collaborators, and we need to have high-performance meetings as part of that collaboration. Because really, these well-designed meetings are going to be at the heart of a high-performance collaboration age. And if I'm right about this and meetings are this important, and if we are in an age where collaboration is going to be central to the human experience, not just at work, but in the world, then we as a group don't just have an opportunity, we have a responsibility to really change the way meetings change the world. So I'm excited about joining all of you on this journey as fellow revolutionaries, and I look forward to working with you on that. Thanks.